Yo, 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 what's up? What's up? What's up? It's Monday. You know what, y'all? It's Monday again. We have this every week. It's Motivational Monday. Brooklyn, relax. It's Motivational Monday. Brooklyn, Brooklyn, stop. Y'all got to excuse me. My dog
Oh,
Brooklyn is
I
out to
forgot
see.
you're on the West Coast.
Yeah. So,
So it's
I got my dog Brooklyn. He's out here having some fun and making some noise. Um, hey guys, it's Monday. It's Motivational Monday. You know how we do. It's that one time in the week that this man over there, he gets on, we get on, we try to motivate y'all, we try to get your week started in a way that is so incredible. And that's usually based off of how our weekend is going and what we're going through. So without further ado, I'm gonna ask the guy on the other side of me, the man with one name. That's how great he is. He's got one name.
hey, you gotta
Talent.
earn one name. They give you two or
Yes,
three.
sir.
You gotta earn to back it down to one joint. My weekend
So,
was wonderful, my brother. I got a lot done. Got to see a lot of friends. You're on the West Coast, so remember I tried to invite you out to the King's
yes, sir.
Theater. That was just a stone cold blast. Like it's something about. I'm starting to pay more attention to behind the scenes energy, if it makes any sense with all this entertainment thing. Like I always know how to find, like out front, I always know how to find a good energy or stay around a good energy. But when you're backstage and you work with all these different people over the years, you can't control necessarily the complete energy. Yeah, thank God for that's why they have different dressing rooms because if a
Yes.
brother feel like he ain't getting along with somebody, I don't want to see somebody, he go in there, close his door, and keep it into his own energy bubble, if you will. But this was one of those joints, just like I told you with Buffalo, the energy backstage was amazing.
Yes.
Between Don and Cedric and DL and Shay and everybody, Tony Robbins, of course. Like our energy back there was just seamless and dope. There was no problems. Wasn't no why you over here, why you taking that. It was just an open energy thing. Same thing about Saturday at the King's Theater in Brooklyn on Flatbush. Shout out to Ray DeJean, the Laughaholics Nation, which put on a stupendous an array of shows. It was the sitcom and movie All Stars. You had Mark Curry, Don Curry, your girl Kim Coles, John Hinton, Carl Payne, aka Coley Coles from Martin, fresh off the Martin reunion, and you had a Brooklyn Mike stop by,
Nice.
Capone stopped by. We had this guy Johnny. Like it was just a bunch of comics like that. Like I said, the energy crazy. Like so that capped off my weekend yesterday, Sunday. It was a true Sabbath for me. I can't tell you the last time I had a Sabbath where I didn't do a goddamn thing. You know what I mean? Like
Nice.
just chilled
Nice.
out, got my favorite seafood from Sammy's, and caught up on the tube and a couple of movies, man, and just I got to hit the edible. You know what I mean? And then got up this morning, believe it or not, at 7. Me and some of the guys had to go shoot a music video, new music video with a new artist. So I got Kenny Williams with me, Aldo with me, Sean Harvey. And when the
Nice.
dude told me what he wanted the scene to be, I knew who to call. I went right to the go-tos. We a bunch of guys around the table playing cards and bickering about, what was better, the 90s or today, entertainment and music and all that. And when I tell you we was stupid, we was stupid. So like I said, man, the weekend was dope. Not mad at that at all. It was a great time all the way up until yesterday. Interesting thing happened yesterday. So I'm having a call. Why am I talking? Oh, I'm calling my girl, Melanie Camacho, great comedian, one of the best to ever do it. Every now and then you got one, you go, oh, she's a good female comedian. Melanie's one of them joints could swing the bats with the big boys. You know what I mean? So, like, she's funny. If you've never seen Melanie Camacho. Anyway, I called her. Now, if you want a chance to see who I'm talking about, they just released a new Snoop Dogg's comedy special. I think it's Fucking Around or something like that. And he's featuring, I want to say, 5 or 6 comics. She's the only female on there. You got Cat
Nice.
Williams, you got Mike Epps, you got D. Ray Davis, you got Donald Rollins, and you got Guy Tori in her 6. Only female, right? They do their thing. He introduced them. They do their thing. They come over to the couch area with him, kick it, tell how they know each other, whatever, and entertainingly, and they smoking, they drinking, and here come the next one. So anyway, Melanie does a thing on there. So I hit Melanie uh, because we have a gig coming up together next month in St. Louis. So I hit her to say, to let her know, hey, the contracts will be final this week. Deposits should go out, blah, 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 just keep abreast on the business of it. And she's like, okay, thanks, whatever. And, she calls me. So we start talking and she's, damn, Tia, no disrespect, but I forgot, let's go over the details verbal too. So we start talking about whatever. And, worked out better for her because it ended up being more money than she remembered, whatever. But then she goes, yeah, man, what's with people trying to, disrespect me and tear me down? And I'm like, I'm oblivious to it. So I'm like, what are you talking about? She says, nah, that special I did with Snoop. I said, yeah, well, by the way, before you even go any further, love the special, good job, whatever. She said, yeah, but, you got a lot of people, comics and non-comics, that just had nothing good to say. And don't get me wrong, comedy is the type of thing where a lot of comics are an acquired taste to people. I get that. You might like this one, I might like this one, da, 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 da. Like, as great as Chappelle is, I consider him an acquired taste. You know what I mean? I don't think Kevin Hart, the same thing. A lot of people don't, and everybody's probably like that, can go under that umbrella because to each his own, which is cool. Nothing wrong with that. So, but her thing was, she's getting it from the comic side and the other side, and the nitpicking. You can tell it's just, once she's telling me some of the comments and stuff like that, I can tell it's just regular jealousy and envy and hate. It's one thing to not like anything. You have that prerogative. But I could tell by your comment, believe it or not. We talked about this on the sports show today. It's one thing to uh, talk crap. It's a whole nother thing to, be able to show respect. This girl has been putting in the work for year after year after year. And one of the comments, and comics, they know this shit. One of the comments was, oh, I heard that joke. She did that joke for this amount of years, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. Like, she's on a televised platform that's going to reach more people than that seen her live ever in one place. So that joke that you may have seen, she's doing it again. So it plays to the millions of people on Netflix that's never seen it.
Yes.
And now we'll become privy to it the same way you did when you seen it, however many years ago at the comic. That's the thing that kills me. And it made me come to, and she was going to be on the show today and tell, from the horse's mouth, but she had a little car trouble. I spoke to her about 30 minutes ago, and she was like, I'm sorry. I said, don't worry about it. We'll still touch on it and talk about it. But what came to mind immediately is, and I just had this conversation sporadically like a week ago at the bar. Our people have this problem that we have this seesaw of emotions and feelings that, I don't know, like the same people who root for you when you're at the underground stage, in the underdog stage, and you're coming up and you're making your bones and you're doing these things you got to do to get to the next level. Them same people that'd be like, keep going, man. You got it, man. You talented and da 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 da. And oh my God, I ain't laughed like that. And that same person that once you seem to be making said strides, you seem to be getting on certain platforms and making a name for yourself and making some headway, will turn around and become the opposite of the same POV and be like, oh, you ain't, that's not that. And I see us do it all the time. I don't know what it is. I know what it is, but I don't know how it's lasted for hundreds of years and we're not able to break these chains of hating on each other. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. Again, everything ain't everybody's cup of tea. But you know what I do, Amir, when I come across something that I might not care for, that's me. I don't put a comment in the box. I don't do a blast on it. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't broadcast. Don't buy that. Don't go see that bullshit, because I understand that that's how I feel. I understand that I should not be harming anybody's pocket or bag with, people that may listen to me because I personally wasn't my cup of tea. It still may be that other person's cup of tea. Look, it's something simple. You know me, I've been rolling with 5 pit bulls and big dogs for the last 15 years straight. at a 5 at a time. That might not be for nobody. Everybody can't have 5 dogs. Yeah. And nor do everybody want a big dog or a pit bull. But I respect that because you're entitled to that. But we go a step further sometimes and start feeding, negative vibes or information to deter other people and to bring somebody down. Now, I'm going to speak from this angle. From a comic who's been doing this, who's been around since the 90s, when we had a string of platforms that was right in our face and easy to do, and it was a lot easier television-wise to keep relevant because you had Comic View, you had Def Jam, you had Bad Boys of Comedy, you had Martin Lawrence Presents, you had Showtime at the Apollo, you had the Apollo Comedy Hour, you had the Uptown Comedy Club TV show, you had Comedy Central, you had HBO show, you had 10 outlets that on a regular any given time in a cycle of a year you could do 1 or 2 each year, so you stayed in that loop. When I look at Comic View, 4, 5, 6 times maybe. When I look at Def Jam, 4, 5 times. Apollo 4 or 5 times. Like, so that's gone now. And now the number one platform, if not the number one, is up in the top 5, is Netflix. Netflix subscription is a certain amount of million here in the States, but billions worldwide. So how somebody don't see that when somebody goes on there and does something, I don't care if you've seen it before, you ain't see it here on this platform, and there's 2 billion people, other than yourself, that also probably haven't seen it, or most likely haven't seen it, will get to see it. So that's a silly, hating, invalid point or comment to tag on. You know what I mean? And this is something we can't shake. So now that our streaming choices and all this stuff are different, people are out there doing their due diligence, and I don't want to use, for lack of a word, struggling to get on certain streaming platforms to get their job out there and get their visual out there and stay relevant and do what they do. Something that was so easy as far as to go to 20 years ago, it's not. So everybody is not a producer, director, writer, screenwriter or whatever. Everybody's not that. Some people, believe it or not, it's not me, but it's 80, 90% of my colleagues. Some people are just comedians. Yeah. And they need these things to catapult them to the next thing. So think twice, people, when you see these things and you have an opportunity to put the comments in the comment boxes and stuff like that before you say what you say, because these are the same people I could point you out and you were lifting them up and trying to promote them. And you know how many times in my inbox I get 10 people every week on the average. Hey, I got this guy, I'm repping this guy, or my cousin does this, or this one does that. Can we get on? How do we do that? They're trying to make their bones and put their work in. I totally get that and understand that. And where I can, I do. You know what I mean? I keep an eye open and an ear open, because where I can, I do that. But I think that's something that got to be addressed today on Motivation Monday, that we can't get on here every week and tell people that let's motivate each other, let's stick up for each other, but this is also who we are.
You're absolutely right. First and foremost, we as a community, meaning the bigger collective, not individually, what tends to happen there is, because we may or may not be doing all of the wonderful things that we'd like to see happen in our own lives, we then tend to now nitpick at the things that go on around us, because for some of us, that's our way of staying relevant. So if I can say something negative about talent, if I can say something negative about Capone or Gerald Kelly, and it gets some traction, now people are paying attention to me. You and I have talked about this, extensively on, not only on this platform, but, just in general. We've got to heal better, y'all. Like, I can't stress that enough. There are a lot of childhood traumas and a lot of, things that so many of us are still dealing with on a constant, everyday basis. And what happens is you let those things bleed into other facets and aspects of your life. So, for instance, if you were the fat kid in your neighborhood, possibly, and everybody picked on you, now that you've gotten older, gotten yourself in shape, probably doing better, on all of these, different spaces. Now you want to utilize the negativity that supposedly hurt you, put you in not necessarily the greatest space. You're doing that to somebody else. Hurt people, as they say. And we've got to work on that. The greatest thing that so many of us need to do, again, is look yourself in the mirror. Once you do that, focus on what you see coming back from the mirror. Everything from how you feel you look to how you feel about yourself, how you carry yourself, how you're taking care of yourself, all of these things. Because what happens is, as you get better at doing all of those things, you start to let that permeate into all of the other things in your life. I'm always amazed when I hear, to Talent's point, people say, "Oh, I've heard that joke a million times." Again, to Talent's point, you might have heard it a million times based off of being in and around that person in certain spaces. But for the bigger majority of the world, the younger people who've never maybe been in those spaces, to them it's totally new. To them it's totally something different. To them it's everything. And we have to understand that now, because we have all of these platforms, as he stated, that we didn't have before, your TikToks, your Instagrams, Facebook, and so forth and so on, you're able to reach not only an immediate spectrum, but you're actually able to reach a broader spectrum. To Talent's point, and I'm just going to switch gears for a minute, because this was something that happened 4th of July that's been happening here in New York City for those who live in the New York area. But we've had a number of DJs who we've grown up and grown accustomed to listening to and understanding have the opportunity to spin at Rockefeller Center. Rockefeller Center for the summer has turned the ice skating rink into a roller rink. So on deck, they've had anybody who's familiar with E. Kim, Brucey B, Stretch Armstrong, who's one of the originals, Tony Touch, not Tony Touch, I'm sorry,
Tony Two?
Ted Smooth. No, Ted Smooth. They had Ted Smooth. These are DJs that we're familiar with, from moving and shaking within the New York area. But the greater world and the broader world may not be as familiar with them. So when you go to Rockefeller Center, you have families there from Ecuador. You have families there from Switzerland. You have families there from all around the world. These people have never heard these DJs. So to hear them spin, even though you might have heard them spin a million or so times, for them, it's all new, because they've never heard these particular DJs spin in that way. They're used to, obviously, whatever they know in their countries, and the DJs that they're familiar with from their countries. So we do have to do a better job of not only continuing to uplift each other, but then, to T's point, and to some of the points that I'm seeing, as the things are flashing across the bottom of the screen, if something's not for you, it's okay to just let it go. Everything doesn't require a comment. Sometimes I find myself, when I'm looking at things, especially on social media, where I go to myself, you know what? I really want to comment on that, but it doesn't require a comment, because in all fairness, it's going to open up a whole big brouhaha, and then I got to get into it and go through all this back and forth and up and down. So sometimes it's okay to keep those wonderful thoughts right here. You're not hurting anybody. You didn't say anything derogatory. We've all grown up with certain sayings. And yes, Talent and I have come on here on numerous occasions, and we said sometimes you have to really, be careful about things that you program yourself with and things that you hear. So when you hear things like, oh, if you remember when you were a kid, your mom was saying, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say nothing at all. That goes for texting. That goes for doing it. Same thing. Apply the same energy. You know what? I don't have anything nice to say about this. Let me let that pass. The people who are engaged, let them be engaged. I can mind my business, or I can keep my opinion to myself and just be happy that in my mind, that's how it played out for me. Doesn't make it right or wrong. As I've said on this platform, and I see on, so many things, and even when I talk to my friends and family, it's your opinion. That doesn't make it right or wrong. It just makes it your opinion. And it's okay to have opinions. So I don't want y'all to think that, you can't have an opinion, but sometimes it doesn't need to be voiced, because in the greater scheme of things, and especially if you're going to do something like tear somebody down, what's the purpose of it? I know we've all been brainwashed into this really cyclical, funny way of thinking where it says you need haters. So if you don't have enough haters, you're not doing anything with your life. You're not going places. You're not, being grand. You're not growing and all this stuff. And I'd say to people, in my estimation, why would you want people to hate you? What sense does that make? That requires extending and expending a lot of energy that you don't need and or have. The highest form of anything that you can vibrate in this world is on love. Quiet as it's kept. I know some of y'all find that hard to believe, but if you think about it, usually when all of the great things that happen in your life, it's happening because you are vibrating on a high level of love. Because what happens is when you're vibrating on that level, all of the beautiful things that have been in store for you, as Talon has said, what how do you put that, T? The thing that stores the good deeds that you do. You said that you there's a
Yeah, the Bank of Karma.
bank
The Bank
account.
of Karma stay open 24/7, brother.
But that starts to come to fruition for you when you're giving that love and supplying it to the energy of the entire free world. Talon
Right.
is a living example of a guy who, to his point, he just stated this, finding and seeing certain things in people. And then because of that, extending his platform, his time, his energy, or just some kind words to you to say, hey, I don't know if you ever thought about this, that, or the third, but you might want to think about it because now you have something to go on. You have somebody who's proven tested, who has done the work, who understands the game, he knows the rules and everything. So now he's applying what he's learned to you and allowing you to move into a space that now you can grow from and you can bring your specific skill set, your specific talents now to the free world. So now everybody is growing, everything is going better. And we have to do better at that. You
Yeah.
can't just continue to be that person who, the minute you don't agree with something, all of a sudden you got to tear it or burn it to the ground because you don't agree with it. It's okay to not agree with stuff. We also, as a collective, please, if y'all don't take nothing else away from today, learn how to agree to disagree. It's okay. Nobody says everything you got to agree with. Some stuff, you know what? That's just not in my wheelhouse. I get it. I understand it. But for
Yeah.
me, that doesn't work. And if we can do that, and if we can work towards that kind of train of thought, if we can utilize that as how we move forward, and then utilize that as a ripple effect. I'm using my hands because when you throw a rock in a lake, you ever notice it has ripples? So it's got to start with you. If you sit around all day, every day, and you want to, be in energy that's negative and this and the third, and you're trying to figure out why all this negativity is happening all around you, you started the rippling effect. You didn't send
Yeah.
out waves that were cool. You sent out waves that were crazy. So it responded. And I share that with you guys because the one thing that you guys may or may not understand is everything that we do is based off of energy. I don't care what it is. It's based off of energy. Your thoughts, your
Yeah.
words, your movements. It's all based off of energy. But what happens is just like when you listen to the radio, one day you might want to listen to the golden oldies and you're in there like, oh, this is stuff my mother and father used to rock to, moving and shaking. Then another day you might want to listen to, Hot 97 and they got the newest trap music on. And if you ever notice, you can do it for a little while, but you can't do it for long periods of time. Not because it's terrible. It's not your music. It's not your music. It might be your children's music, might be your children's music, and that's okay. You know what you grew up on. You knew the vibe that you grew up on. You knew the energy that you grew up on. You knew the way that certain things made you feel. Don't allow other things to dictate how and what you feel, because at the end of the day, you are responsible for your happiness, not somebody else, not something else.
And the universe is real, bro.
Yes.
This what I truly believe. I truly believe as we walk and navigate through our daily going ons, it's that we're surrounded by all these invisible mirrors. And the energy that you exude bounces off said mirrors and stick to you. Like you're what remember Charlie Brown, Linus? The little dirt pig pen, little dirty thing. Like remember when they show him walking, the dirt
Dust
following this
kicking
motherfucker.
up.
The little dirt following this motherfucker everywhere you go. So I believe that energy is very similar, and you just can't see it. So because you can't see it, you know how people are. We live in a world where seeing is believing. And a
Yes.
lot of this shit, because you can't see it, you don't believe it. A lot of people just don't believe in God just because they can't see it. So they can't conceive it. I get that. I get that we are a fleshy and we go off of the rules of flesh a lot of times. So if I can't see it, I can't believe it or achieve it. So I get those people why they think the way they think. But I believe that the bank of karma is always open. And you walk around and the energy you exude that comes off your body and off your soul and spirit is pinging off of these mirrors that are surrounding everybody. And more importantly, mainly you. You know, they're pinging off. So if you wake up with a shitty attitude, you know what I mean, or carrying something you didn't like from the night before, whatever the case may be, that's pretty much what it's going to be. It's going to be hard to shake that because you're pinging that negative energy off of you. Let me give people a prime example of this is why we're supposed to support each other and look out for each other. There's a lot of icons, and listen to the word icon. There's a lot of icons out there that had to support somebody else's career first. Let me say that again. There's a lot of superstars and icons in the world that we all deem great and the greatest and the GOAT, this, that, the third. And at some point early in their life and career, it wasn't even about them. They was working for someone else, supporting their endeavors, supporting their career, rooting for them, hoping they make it because they say, hey, if they make it, I'm walking in. I.e. your Tupacs, i.e. your Biggies and Puffies and like everybody, the Snoops, everybody you see that's big, and even in the R&B world, these people didn't just come out poof and did their own thing. These people got a long running history. Tupac was that guy. He went from I'm gonna carry the records, then I'm gonna graduate to hype man. On stage, I get to get on stage, grab a mic, talk some shit, and hype it up. I could spin a couple of records because the DJ's sick or not here or whatever. He did those intangible things that went to somebody else's career. You know, the digital underground.
Yes.
Pac was part of that. He was part of that whole camp and doing his thing. Everybody else does it. I'm not saying we don't do it at all, but we a small percentage compared to everybody else in this country that do it. If you look at all the nationality, perfect example is the immigrants. My hat, the reason why I don't disrespect immigrants, because I have a great respect for them with their tenacity and their go-getterism when they come into this country, what they're willing to sacrifice for a lump of years to get where they want to go. You see these East Indians that come over here, and these not the West Indians, but the Dot Indians. They will live 12 to a studio apartment for 5 or 10 years and work that little corner store or whatever shop they got, fabric store, whatever it is, sandwich store, Subway, whatever. And after 7, 8 years, when that thing is going and get a little automatic or whatever, that next person get to open one. And then 10 more relatives come from India or wherever, Bangladesh, and they cram in there again. They put that work in and they branch out. Then they bring more. You wonder why you see a lot of them, because coming from another country, I don't want to call them third world countries, but coming from anywhere outside of the United States of America, people appreciate it more because they don't have it. We have a sense of, and it's sad because we always complain about what the hell we don't have, opportunity-wise, money-wise, real estate-wise, education-wise. But goddamn it, we move sort of complacent to me.
Yeah.
We move around this bitch like we got it all. For motherfuckers that on one hand you cut the news on right now, somebody protesting about something he ain't got. But goddamn it, you niggas is moving around here like you got it. You're complacent. You won't even go read up on a grant or a loan to open your own business. You know, you still trying to get somebody to loan you 2,000 here, 3,000 here, and put it all together when the government has these programs, but you don't want to do the due diligence to go do that. Guess what? That Indian dude move over here, ain't been 2 weeks. He ain't got his green card or nothing. He reading up on that shit, learning what he need to do and how you need to get it and go forward. You have to understand some people. It's more than one way to make it somewhere. And those who put the work in early, and like I said, push somebody else's agenda. Shit, we could say that about every single comedian that did Comic View, every single comedian that did Def Comedy Jam. We could say that about each and every one of them because we are working for minimum wage at the time, creating this big thing that's going to change the world. And it did. And when it changed the world, the guys that catapulted, the Russell Simmons, the Stan Lathans, all the behind the scenes, the Brillstein and Grays, and they made the big money. It became this big thing. We worked for that, though, because as long as it stayed on and as long as it stayed in everybody's mind and made the impression it did, we was able to work and do something for ourselves and go to the next thing. You have to put some eggs in somebody else's basket. It can't always just be your basket. You know what I mean? Tisket or tasket, nigga, it can't be your basket. Like, we have to promote other people. Sometimes that helps us. Experience. Think about a regular job. Entertainment no different. When you see Tupac carry crates for 8 years with Digital Underground, and then look how big he became.
Yeah.
Going corporate America. Motherfuckers start down here, and then 10 years later, he's the VP or CEO or whatever. He put that in, though. He went and worked at these lower levels to learn everything and get better, learn and get better, learn and get better. And he became an asset and valuable to said corporation.
Hey.
Don't take my word for it. Hold on. I'm sorry. Wait, we got to pause because it's that time. Hope you got a jewel of the day, my brother. It's we're right in the middle of the show and our new segment, because this man is known for dropping so many jewels. We said, slow down, son, you're killing them. Let's highlight the jewels. Prophet Pete, drop it like it's hot. It's Amir's time. Jewel of the day. Let's go. What's the jewel of the day, my brother?
Hey, everybody. So, today we're talking about, the ability to support one another. But I think the greatest support that we have to have is support of self. So today's jewel has to do with what makes you happy. And I'm just going to read this really quickly, but I want this to sink in and I want everybody to think about this. Your partner isn't supposed to make you happy. I want everybody to think about that. Your partner. That could mean significant other, your kids, it could mean family, it could mean friends. Your happiness, fulfillment, and sense of self is something only you can give yourself. I'm sharing that today because as we talk about what we're talking about today, that is part of what is putting people in the spaces that they're in terms of hating, in terms of not feeling worthy, in terms of not thinking to themselves that their small part to what Talent just shared is part of a bigger picture. It's part of a bigger moment. He mentioned Tupac. I'll take it here for some of you who remember this part of Uptown Records. They had a MC, his name was Father MC at the time. You can go back and you can listen to these records. Father MC has a record that had Mary J. Blige on it. He had another record that had Jodeci on it. Now, to Talent's point, look at where Jodeci eventually ended up. And obviously, we all know where Mary J. Blige is as it stands now currently. She's still one of the biggest names and one of the biggest people in the game. But to Talent's point, that came from doing the small things, which was supporting somebody else who in the moment, it's their time. We have to understand that everybody, hopefully, should have their time and their moment. And that's cool. When it's not your time or your moment anymore, that's nothing to be salty about. There's nothing to feel a ways about, because here's the reality of it all. Your piece to the puzzle has now allowed somebody else to add a new piece to the puzzle. The way life is set up, it's like doing a puzzle. We all do our part and put our pieces in to help make the bigger picture be as grand and as beautiful as we can make it. But what we have to understand is, as you put your piece in, it's not for you to say whether that piece was a great piece, whether that piece was a needed piece, whether that piece should be a piece. It's just our job to put the piece in and let the rest of the free world figure that part out.
Right.
This man in particular, as he stated, 30 years in the game of comedy. I want everybody to think about that, because some of you have children on here and your children range in age. But 30 years of doing something makes you pretty good at what you do, first and foremost. And then secondly, it means, in theory, you've at least influenced 2 generations, if not 3. Because 20 years ago or 10 years ago, those people were looking at you and they were saying to themselves, you're who and what I aspire to be. And because of that, they then started to study you. They then started to maybe emulate you in some way, because we get thrown when we hear stuff like that. They stole my joke. somebody stole my style.
Right.
All that is somebody who really finds what you do incredible, and they just haven't found their voice yet. The beauty of this journey called life is finding your voice, finding your path, finding what makes you or motivates you to get up every day and add to this beautiful journey called life, and better yet, add to the world. The reason why we get on here every Monday is to remind people of that. And here's what I need y'all to really think about. Your unique brand of whatever, because it could be you're a great baker. It could be you're a great seamstress. It could be you're a great singer. Could be you're a great orator. Could be any and all of these things. All of these things put you in spaces and add to, again, the grander picture, which is this place called the world. What's beautiful about it, and this is just me and the way I see it, is in doing what you do, and whether you get on mediums such as this, or you find mediums of your own so that you share your talents, you turn that light on in somebody else. And what's dope about that is now that person, hopefully based off of what their skill set is, based off of what their talent is helping somebody else turn that light on in them. That's our job. Y'all have all heard the poem. I don't know it off the top of my head, so I'm not going to try to quote it. If you've ever seen the movie with Samuel Jackson, where he's the basketball coach, he gets the kid to stand up.
Coach Carter.
Coach Carter, and they recite that poem about, you know, the light within you turns on the light. That's what our jobs are, and that simply is by you just doing whatever it is you're already great at. It's okay if you borrow from others. Here's where it gets tricky. If you borrow, say you borrow and thank that person. Because in all fairness, what they did was add to you. And because you're now adding to somebody else, it doesn't get misconstrued, it doesn't get lost, and then there's no reason for anybody to feel any kind of way or to feel as though, oh my God, you're just, you know, doing out of pocket stuff. We get out of sorts when it comes to things of that magnitude because in our hearts and in our minds, we feel as though the things that we bring to the world and how we bring it to the world is sacred, and it means something to us, which it should. But because it's a gift, and I want y'all to think about that word. The word is gift. It isn't selfish. It isn't mine. It's a gift. What gifts do is bless someone else. So when you have those kinds of gifts and you're blessing the world, that's all you should care about. I did my part. I shared. I need to allow the world to figure out how to accept that gift. It's
Right.
not your job to tell people how to do it. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to share that with you. But the jewel of the day was that, and to add to it was all of those other things that I brought, you know, just now as I was speaking to you guys. Because for me, this is, you know, I can attest to this man here. He can attest to it. I've been told for years my gift is my ability to speak and, you know, what I do with words. And to be fair and be honest with y'all, for a long time, I never stepped into it. I never embraced it. And like I said, that's the one thing I love about being on here is the transparency. I never thought about it because when I converse, whether it's in person or doing it like we're doing it here on this live, it's me just having a conversation with you guys. And I'm just telling y'all how I feel and what my heart and my spirit says to say. But I never thought to myself that that was any kind of gift or talent. I just figured, you know, I'm talking and just sharing with y'all. So I'm cool with it. But that man right there was one of the first people that say, nah, bro, that needs to be shared with
Yeah, absolutely.
on a broader scale.
Let me tell you
You know?
something. Thank you for the first of all, jewel of the day. Jewel of the day. Excellent day. I thought it was very interesting in there that you put the comparison or analogy, will, as a puzzle. Because last night I'm wrapping up. I was up. I hate when I get a good show I'm watching and I gotta complete it. I'm up to 4, knowing I gotta get up at 7, right? So I'm finishing the show called "The Man Who Fell to Earth,"
Okay. I've been hearing about that.
and it's good in general if you like sci-fi and whole alien thing or whatever, and it's very good. But the best parts that stood out to me was because you know he had to learn real quickly, very fastly, how to be human and what we did and why we do what we do. When he was saying it back in monologues in the later episodes, you know, he referred to what you said in something because they're trying to put this thing together and he's missing something. He's like getting frustrated. And he's like, you don't understand. I'm getting frustrated because it's like doing a puzzle, but not even knowing what the puzzle's supposed to look like, what the end picture is. And I thought that was very deep when he said that, because think about that. Puzzles are already hard by themselves. You look at the box, oh, it's a lake with trees. That shit's already hard. Like, what the fuck? What part of the tree in the lake? You being fucked up. Like, I know people who are good at that, but the average motherfucker takes a lot of patience and real, you know what I mean? Observatory, know your shit. So when he said that, he's like, imagine trying to do a puzzle, but they didn't put it on the box. It's just the pieces in the goddamn box. You don't even know what the fuck you making, bro. So he was saying how the level of difficulty, that's one point. Then another point he said was very interesting to me. And I think this is the backbone of the beginning of this show when I said, I don't know why we hate on each other and try to tear each other down every chance we get and stuff like that. And he said, what I've learned in my short time of being human, he said, humans are in constant fear of fear.
Mm.
He said humans are in a constant state of fear
Of fear.
of fear.
Wow.
Think about that shit is the deepest shit. I'm staring at this shit and I thought maybe it was the edible, but then I woke up and I was still flabbergasted. So I said, no, it's not that. So I'm like, and then the second component to that, he says, fear is, you know, we live in constant fear of fear. And he said, shame is fear aimed inward. Think about that.
Wow.
To be ashamed of something. You know what I mean? That fear has now kind of like stabbing. You're already afraid of fear. So now not only is the fear there, you know, front and center, but it's towards inward. So shame is the shit you keep with you. You know what I mean? It's the fear that's coming inside of you that you got to walk around with, whatever that is. You know, you're ashamed you lost your car, got repossessed. You can't make the mortgage. You know, you can't get the kids what they want for Christmas. You know, times is tight, whatever. You lost your job, whatever. You're ashamed because of the state you may be in that current moment in time. And I thought that was really deep because if this is true, not that I don't think it's true, but if it holds true, it explains what we were talking about the first half of the show.
Yes.
If
Yes.
I'm in constant fear of fear, that is driving my hate. I'm scared you're gonna have more than me. I fear that you. And here's some real shit it's sad, but it's so true because I've experienced this not just with self but with others, and I've heard this time and time again in my realm and circle. That fear could be, like I said, I'm fear you're gonna have more than me. I'm fear, you know, that you're gonna get too successful, that you're gonna, you know, show me out, da da da. But the biggest fear, if you're a person that knows that person, you're gonna go and disassociate from me. I'm never ever at some point, if I don't bring you down, you're gonna get to a level I'm never gonna see you again. Like, you know how many niggas in the hood that probably knew, smoked a blunt, drank a 40 ounce with Jay-Z that can't reach him right now, that can't be where he is right now. And instead of you having the strength inside of you to still cheer that man on, because he's when you get to these certain levels, you become a representative of all that can be for the people behind you. And this is the thing with us, we have a problem with sacrificing our selfishness for the big picture. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so my thing is like that person, instead of feeling like, yo, I'm privileged, man, because I know him. If I ever did bump into him again, he's going to greet me a certain way because of our history and blah, blah, blah. Instead of having that outlook on it, you're immediately going to take the other outlook on it because he may not come back to the neighborhood as often as you would like. He may not have done nothing around there. You know, he's doing things worldwide now. What about 10F? What about my building? You know what I mean? So these little mind tricks that we play with each other is the fear, the constant fear of being afraid. We fear fear.
Yo, you know what's so crazy, T, and I'm glad that you put it in that analogy and phrased it in that way, because to add to that, it's amazing. So, two things. First off, uh, your driveway drinking the other day. Just a fun fact. You had a cousin there who I know from the basketball world.
Right.
I've never seen you, the two of you, ever in the same space at the same
Who,
time.
Danger?
Yeah, yeah.
Get
They had
out of
like
here.
an orange. Yeah.
Yeah,
So when
that's
I
my cousin.
walked in, he said to me, he said, Amir, you know my cousin T? I said, yeah, I know him T for years. He was like, get out of here. He said, you know we cousins. I said, I never knew that. So we laughed about it because he was like, I know you, and he knows him from the basketball circle. So he was
Right.
like, yo. And I said to him, I said, people don't understand that in your life, and this goes back to some of what I was saying about energy. You start vibrating obviously on different levels, not because you're better or because you're smarter or because you are trying to. You just tend to expand who you are. So you start moving in and out of different circles based off of your level of vibration. The people who do and or don't vibrate on those levels, they fall away based off of their energy, not because of you. And that's why it's I always find it so funny when, to T's point, oh, he don't mess with me no more. It's not that I don't mess with you. You're not vibrating where I'm vibrating. So I'm not gonna continue to vibrate at the level that you're at because you have decided that you don't want to vibrate any differently. I'm cool with that. I'm going to leave you where you are and let you do what you do. What I am going to do, though, is continue to elevate myself. I'm going to continue to vibrate in and around spaces that, for me, allow me to continue to grow and continue to get bigger and better. And that doesn't mean that I think any less of you. I think to the point that he said about fear of fear, for so many of us, we're afraid to get beyond what we immediately know and feel comfortable with. We don't want to swim out into the deep water because out in the deep water means we really have to prove we can swim. If I stay in the shallow water, I can always just stand up and no waves, no nothing. I don't have to worry about anything. But if I have to go out in the deeper water, I have to prove that I can swim. And for some of us, not everybody, that's where the fear really sets in. Because now I'm not just in and around because I'm the hang on guy. I'm not just in and around because I'm Talon's boy. I'm not in and around because I'm Amir's friend. I'm around because I bring value and add to the overall situation. And here's the thing about adding to the situation, and I need people again to really understand this. Everybody's not going to add value in the sense of being able to come and be the energy person. Some of
Right.
y'all are going to come and just be the great person who does the lookout. See something funny happening over there, just keeping an eye out, whatever. Because we need that. Why? I'm paying attention to a million things. So I can't
Right.
obviously see everything. But if I got somebody, to Talent's point, who's on the team and is saying to themselves, this is what I can bring to the table, or this is what I bring to the table, and is humbled by it, and or saying to themselves, I'll do this, they'll be fine, everything will work out the way that it's supposed to work out, things will be good. That's what that turns into and grows into. I've shared with everybody my, I don't even call it celebrity because Talent can tell you, I've been around since the 90s. Just nobody knew me because I was kind of always quiet and just, around
That
quietly.
story is amazing with my cousin. I'm gonna get back to that, but what you described just a minute ago, you described Jay-Z and Dame Dash, right?
Is that right?
You just described that situation to a T. You said it's nothing but levels of vibrations, and this guy's ready to go to another level of vibration. This guy, cool. You're not ready to go. Cool. I'm going. And a gist of it, that's pretty much sums up that whole situation because let's face it, entertainment, when you come from the realms we come from, I'm not talking about the people who got lucky, got a silver spoon in their mouth, and they're just doing it as a hobby, could do what they want. I'm talking about people that are blessed with gifts that are using them to feed families and get people out of bad situations and make them better and grow and put kids to school and all that. These people, you should want them to keep changing levels of vibration and getting bigger and bigger and better. Like I said, if nothing else, just as a representation of your crew or your ethnicity, that the kids that come behind them know that they can do something. You cannot tell me, I don't care who liked or disliked the black president, Barack Obama, and the first lady. I don't care who liked the Obamas or didn't like them. You can't tell me. Forget policies and how much money I had to do this and which war was this and deficit that and recession. Just the symbolic measure of that it was possible. It was made possible. And that black man went in the most ultimate seat they don't want you to sit in this country. You think sitting in the front of the bus piss them off. Sit in the Oval Office. So the symbolic measure meant so much in gazillion mental dollars. So when I look at the whole how Rockefeller played out, it got to a point where, okay, I could rep for the streets and my art. So when I grab a mic and I spit these bars and I got these beats and I'm talking about whatever, I'm from the streets. So I'm still going to talk that shit, right? However, I understand that I can't and don't need to move like that in the boardroom. I don't need to come to the boardroom with the hoodie on and the Timbs and the gold front and fuck all that, and because that's only going to get me respected so far, and in turn get my business so far. And that's where the two kind of would hit a crossroads and were varying. One was clinging to the hood values and movements and rule, and one seen beyond the stratosphere. One seen, bruh, no, this you don't understand. We making so much noise. We could. Heavy D did it before Jay did it. Heavy D, which Uptown is a subsidiary under label of MCA, he went from that to running that to president of MCA.
Yes.
So all of these things are possible. Look at Snoop. Snoop just went from, buying and owning the rights and the name Death Row Records. Own the label you on.
Yeah.
So this is what I mean by you hit the nail on the head with the vibrations and the levels going up. You should want that though. And like you said, because it's a free country and because of everything, if you don't want it, that's okay. But maybe this is where we split business wise and we both pursue what we both want. I watched last night, and I urge everybody to watch for different reasons. Again, I said Chappelle's Acquired Taste. He's a friend, and I like him, so I don't want it to ever come off wrong when I say he's an acquired taste. I just eat, sleep, and drink comedy, and I know how people feel about certain things, so I use my know-how to give a consensus. But he did his latest thing is 49-minute, kind of, you could call it a special, but what it is it's his acceptance speech at the Duke Ellington school he went to, where they named the theater after him.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
So in naming the theater after him, it's his acceptance speech turned into a goddamn hour special because he wanted you to understand the whole thing in a synopsis, if you will, that he took you from being a young man in a bad school that scared the shit out of him because he's not that kind of guy. He's a quiet, weird type of guy, which he admits to. And when he realized he wanted to do comedy, I forgot, he didn't mention any names, but he said whoever he went to told him, well, if you want to do comedy, you need to learn how to act. So taking that piece of advice, he told his mom, and his mom did the due diligence and research and took him to the Ellington, the School of Performing Arts. And he had to do a monologue or audition and blah, blah, blah. And he said he stunk that shit up. He said, I stunk it up. And he was like, but he let me in. He said he remembered him asking him a question of, why do you want to act? And he said, I was honest. I was like, I don't want to act. It was like, what the fuck are you doing here? He was like, somebody told me I need to learn how to act. I want to be a comedian. So out of his honesty and the path, whatever they saw fit, he got into school. Now, this is the same school that recently named the theater after him, right? So he goes into the situation of, even Duke Ellington had this line he said, to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, but to the effect of, you know, art has to be scary. Art has to be scary and raw and you know, because when it conforms and do what you tell it to do, it's no longer viable. Right. So his whole thing was because he's addressing the whole trying to rally up the LGBT against him because of the trans thing, whatever. And he's like, but that's what this school is supposed to be about. The freedom of that expression, whether you agree with it or not. And that's one of my biggest problems in America. All of these people who these right mongers who be out there talking about freedom of speech, they be the first ones to get mad when I say something that they don't agree with. So it's, let me get this straight. Let me look at the Constitution and see that clause in there when it says freedom of speech. In parentheses, it must says unless I don't like it. So it's freedom of speech until my speech says something you don't particularly care for or agree with. Then you could come and cancel me and shut me down, and I ain't shit, and I'm a fucked up person in society.
Isn't it amazing? And you know, like I said, it's so fun because you take, you know, all of these things and you, like you said, you wrap them in a bow and you bring them full circle. And it comes back down to this. The more you support friends, family, associates, whatever. And when I say support, I mean truly support. I'm not talking about the lurking on people's pages. You never congratulate them. You never tell them. You never support them in any real way, shape, or form. If they have a business, you never, you know, bought anything from them. You're a lurker, and it's okay. You know, that's
You're a
where you want to
lurker.
be. It's okay, but understand that in doing that and in being that, you also, in a real way, stifle your blessings. The one thing that you need to really understand about this world and the way it works is through blessing others comes your blessing. Now, you know, people could look at it from, you know, a biblical or church standpoint, or well, you know, however you want to look at it, and I get it. But in mano y mano, in straight up thinking and straight up talking and walking, your blessings are definitely a microcosm of people who you have blessed. And
Right.
this is why I always do my best to connect the dots when and where I can without the what am I getting from it? Because for me, I'm speaking for me right now as I share this with y'all, I have been blessed a gazillion times over. There are pictures surfacing now of moments that I don't even remember that I'm like, I don't even remember taking that picture, but okay, it exists. So that means it happened in some way, shape, or form. But it's also the reality of understanding that in your moments, whatever those look like for you, and please know and understand this. If you've had the blessings of being around what would be perceived as entertainer or somebody in the entertainment industry, you're doing your thing. Because it wasn't Jay-Z or Beyonce or Sidney Poitier or Denzel Washington doesn't make it any less greater because it might have been somebody who may or may not be on that caliber as far as what the world sees. If you
Right.
have friends and family who fall into these, you know, various categories, that makes you blessed. That means you've had the opportunity to be in and around and see some things that maybe the average person can't see. Now I'm gonna double back for one quick second before we jump off here because Talon brought up something about changing and moving, like we said, when you vibrate, you move into different spaces. Because this has happened to me recently. I've encountered two young ladies in particular who went to junior high school with myself and my brother. And in both cases, these young ladies shared stories with me. One in particular, and this is to what Talon said about people supposedly changing. One young lady in particular, she uh, went to junior high school. My brother, she said she used to cheat off his paper when they were in school, as far as schoolwork goes, math and all that stuff. And she said my brother used to always be like, "Come on, you know, copy all the answers, you know, whatever, whatever." She said some years later, she got a chance to experience him at Rucker. She said, and she was doing background thing, like Malik had a group of people around him, he's talking or whatever. She's walking in the background, you know, like, and he can clearly see her. So she's going back and forth and, you know, not making her way to him. And Malik stops in the middle of his thing and is like, "What you doing? Like, you're not gonna come over and say what's up?" And the young lady said, "Well, you know, you Malik Sealy now, and you know, everybody knows you." He said, "Yeah, but you knew me before any of this. You knew me before basketball. You knew me before, any of the stuff that people supposedly know me for now. So she said, he gave her a hug. He said, what you up to now? She said, I'm an engineer. He said, that's great to hear. That means you don't have to cheat off my paper anymore. That's what's up. But I share that story with you guys because that's what life is supposed to be about. In the moment, yes, there is this whole broadened thing where you're happy that, whatever. But the reality of it all is they started off in the same spaces and places you did. Sometimes, though, people just become a little bit more serious about whatever their gifts are than you do. And that, in turn, allows them to elevate and move into the spaces that they move into. And then the second person I'm going to bring up, she's a wonderful young lady named Keisha. If she ever sees this, she's going to laugh. But Keisha, same thing, junior high school, Nona. Keisha's always been a thug. She was in junior high school. She's a thug now, but I love her to death. It's my sister, still people. But she tells me this wonderful story of having seen my brother on Fifth Avenue, and she was by the Gucci store or Louis Vuitton store, one of them. And she said she saw my brother and he was doing some shopping. And according to her, it's her story, she said he bought her first Gucci or Louis Vuitton bag. She said, I'll never forget your brother for that. She said, because I knew your brother since junior high and he never changed. No matter where I saw him, he always showed me the same love. He always showed me the same humility. And I could go into 1,000 more stories about people who we grew up with. But again, I share all of that with you guys because in the grand scheme of things, this is what I mean. I elevated, quote unquote, in your eyes to here. You might have stayed here. I didn't change. You and your perception of me changed. I'm still the same person. Why? Because that's who I've always been. Now, are there situations and moments where people do change? No question. But to be honest with you, chances are you probably never knew who they were in the first place. And now that they're in a specific space, they're starting to show you who they really are. So keep that in mind too as you encounter friends, family, and all these various things. But bigger and better than that is knowing that I love you. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in every Monday to what Tyler and I, get on here and speak about, and the guests that, we're fortunate to have come on and share and pour into you as well. It's Motivational Monday. It's a dope week. Y'all can see, in case y'all haven't figured out, you see all the light and brightness behind me. I'm on the West Wing. So I'm out of the city for a little while, just, enjoying some different energy and a different change of pace. But I do really appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in every week. And as I always tell y'all, it's nice to be important, but it's much more important to be nice. Y'all take that with you. I promise you. Open all kind of doors you never thought possible. Love y'all.
Enjoy the rest of your vacation, my brother.
Salute.
Motivation Monday, folks. We out.